Hey everyone, the doctor is in. Hey
Yeah.
everyone, the doctor is in. How are
Hi,
you?
good evening, everybody.
Hey, how are you? We're missing one of our guests, but she'll be on in a second. Sorry we're late, you guys. We had a few technical difficulties today. That happens every now and then. We haven't had one for a long time, Mo, so
Yeah.
no thunderstorms or anything. So this one was not cool, but stuff happens. Stuff happens. So today we have a great show. We have our friends from Living Beyond Breast Cancer here, and they're about to put on an amazing conference to understand Black breast cancer. It's called Knowledge is Power. So, hey Mo.
Hi, how you doing? Long time no see. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Doctors In. We are so excited because this is like friends and family here with us today. I'm going to introduce our first two guests. Our first guest, Jean Sachs. Jean and I go way back, and we keep having these inroads at the most amazing and serendipitous places and times where we get to talk about survivorship and breast cancer and all the things that really matter for our breasties. And she is the CEO of Living Beyond Breast Cancer. Is that right? Not executive director, the CEO. And she is here to talk with us about their initiatives and their increase in diversity outreach and this wonderful conference that I was first introduced to by Jamil Rivers, who is the chair of the board of Medivivor, yes, and the CEO.
On the board.
What's that?
And she's on the board of LBBC.
And she is on the board of LBBC. And what's more, she's also the CEO of the Chrysalis Initiative, right? The Chrysalis Project. And you're going to tell us more about that and what's exciting there and what's a chrysalis and why a chrysalis. And lastly, we are joined by none other than, there can only be one, May McCarmo, who is just logging in with us this evening. And she is the CEO of Tiger Lily. So I am so, hi, we were talking about you. I said there can only be one.
Hi, guys.
We're so excited to
finally got together. We had a little difficulty, but we finally got together. We're here.
Yeah, we always do, right? Make it happen.
Who wants
and
to
Ricky
start?
is calm under pressure.
Yes, she was very calm.
She could be a surgeon.
How this initiative came about? How did this project, this Knowledge is Power conference, come about?
I guess I could
Jamil,
go.
You know, this was your baby.
Go
girl.
for it, Jamil. It's your baby.
Yeah. So, I have been connected with Living Beyond Breast Cancer in literally the same month I was diagnosed. I was diagnosed in March of 2018 with metastatic de novo breast cancer. I got connected with Living Beyond Breast Cancer, just doing my due diligence and research on my own. And they embraced me, really was a great support to me and my family and my children and just navigating through this whole deal. And so I went through the Young Advocate training with Living Beyond Breast Cancer. And Jean then invited me to join the board, which was I was so honored to do that and decided to join the board. And so, I'm serving my board duties. And, during my journey, I started coaching other women with breast cancer and kind of developed a whole curriculum, especially with Black women, because there's such a gaping dearth of information and resources for Black women. And so, being involved as an advocate, I just got so tired of always hearing about, oh, well, breast cancer is bad. It's really, really bad for Black women, but there were really no solutions or anything like that. And I said, well, we know what to do. There's evidence, there's data as to what's going on. And so I kind of had like a text flurry with Jean saying, you know what, I'm tired of this. Let's do something. And I just said, this is what I want to do. And can we do it? And we're going back and forth. And I just said, we really should do something. And she just said, yeah, let's go ahead.
But what I really said was, I need you to email me because I cannot text the way Jamil texts. I just couldn't keep up with it.
That is so true.
Said,
yes, I hear that from everyone. Yes.
Was she doing emoji text or no emoji text? Because I was like, you got to put some emoji on that thing. Because she's like, Mima. I'm like, yes. Are you happy, mad, like sad? I need some kind of emoji.
And so that's where this project was born. And so I sent Kathy, who is also, she's the executive VP of strategy and mission. Kathy, Omarad, and Jean, I basically sent them the rundown of my curriculum that I created and said, this is what I think is really important to cover, just based off of my experience of mentoring other Black women, and what's really important in order for them to ensure that they stay on that track of staying on that quality of care. And so we then came up with the idea to do a series of workshops. And so we ended up doing that. And it is now here after a year of working on this. And so we developed a committee, and Tiger Lily Foundation, and also Touch, the Black Breast Cancer Alliance, and Dr. Dr. Mo, all graciously decided to join the committee, and have really been working hard to make this something so meaningful and so impactful and dynamic. And it's really going to change lives. I mean, I work with so many women where they said, oh, I wish I would have known that, or I wish I would have, years later. But now we're really trying to get them this information and tools in order for them to really start on a good foot from the onset, to make sure that they get the care that they need.
Amanda, why is this timely for you and with your initiatives? Tell us a little bit about your involvement in this also.
Well, first of all, I support my sisters wholeheartedly. I love seeing strong Black women doing something powerful towards ending disparities. I met Jamil, gosh, I think you came to we had a Hill Day when we launched our alliance in November of 2018. And she just seemed very partnership oriented, very focused, and very dedicated towards changing the landscape for Black women. As you know, we're facing the highest disparities in many ways. And there's much we're not told at diagnosis. There are things I learned about clinical trials and testing for genetics that I learned way after or halfway through my journey. And so, when Jamil mentioned the idea, I was like, well, how can I not be a part of this and support her dream? Because what affects one of us affects all others, and we can make all boats rise and help other Black women to their journey. So I said yes, and I'm proud to be part of this dream and see it manifesting for her, and in partnership with Touch and Living Beyond Breast Cancer.
I love this. Jean, tell us a little bit about, I guess, your thoughts on why this is important. Is this something in your experience, even through the organization, you've noticed that there continues to be, I guess, a persistent disparity in outreach and information? What's your take on things?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to talk about that. Well, first of all, I feel really proud to be sharing the Zoom room with all of you. So I really appreciate being invited. Jamil, when I met her, I said, you're probably not ready to be on the board yet. Like you have 3 kids, you were just diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer. So no urgency. And she said, I'm ready. I was like, okay, sometimes people are just ready, but that is really unusual. We know when you're first diagnosed, particularly with metastatic breast cancer, it's pretty overwhelming, and there's a lot of things to sort through. So Jamil is you're an outlier. But Living Beyond Breast Cancer has been around. It'll actually be 30 years next year, which is so hard to believe.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and I think as an organization that has made it and has a lot of experience in putting on conferences, we really wanted to be a part of this because I knew once we got Jamil's ideas and we pulled together the right advisory committee, and there's an amazing advisory committee, we could sort of be that foundation to make it happen. And absolutely, disparities are a real problem in healthcare, and we know that, and we've known it for a long time. And the fact that we're going to really pull people together and give them some tools, and to say these are things you can do, action steps, and also create a peer network. Because we all know if you talk to somebody else, it makes who is like you or you relate to, it just helps. So Living Beyond Breast Cancer is just so honored. I'm so excited to see this come to fruition. And actually, Jamil, we put this together in less than a year because it was at San Antonio in December when you were texting me. And I think the first workshop will start on October 1st, right?
Yes.
And anyone who's interested, go to lbbc.org. Registration is free. Really, really hoping to get some more people that are more newly diagnosed. So if you know anyone, let them know.
I was just going to ask that very question. If you could give us the dates, sort of the time, and who this is for. Give us the brief snapshot of that, Jamil, would you?
So this is really for Black women and men that are impacted by breast cancer or living with breast cancer, diagnosed with breast cancer. And the series takes place from October 1st through October 24th. And it's all virtual, and you can attend the workshops from the comfort of your own home. They will start October 1st, October 8th, October 15th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then October 24th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
So pretty much every Thursday until the
Mhm.
last one, right? And the last one's on a
Right.
Saturday. So just remember Thursday night. So after the day after our show, right? They can just check in and check in. So it's interesting because I've had 4 new breasties call me in the last 2 days. And really not a day goes by where you don't hear somebody with a new diagnosis. And the first thing I ask them is, what kind of breast cancer do you have? And in 4 conversations in the last 2 days, nobody knew.
Mhm.
And I said, well, my doctor didn't tell me that. Well, did you ask your doctor? Well, I didn't know there were kinds of breast cancer. And and I think these are the women that we're trying to reach, the women that don't have a network, that don't have knowledge, that they go to Dr. Google and they're totally overwhelmed. And so, they find us on social media. Thank God that we're out there for them. But this is what we need. We need to be able to say, you know what? The doctor needs to tell you these things, and these are the things, the questions you need to ask. And
Mhm.
it's really just a lack of knowledge and fear when you're given that diagnosis and you just don't even know what to ask.
Right. You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. And
Your
so
doctor won't always tell you either. So you have to have
Right.
that. That's why the
Right.
title's so powerful. Knowledge is power. You have to oftentimes be
Right.
your own advocate and go in with your knowledge and your toolkit and say, here's what I'm going to ask you, and here's what here are my options. And so you go in with the as an empowered advocate versus deer in the headlights. Because when
Right.
you're faced with decision-making processes and you can't comprehend cancer, it's oftentimes too much to even figure out what to do without having that toolkit. And so the conference is really a powerful series of giving early stagers this powerful toolkit of, how to go into the doctor's office empowered, how to know about your diagnosis, how to navigate the breast cancer journey, how to get peer support, what are clinical trials, just things that you have to know about to navigate the whole
Basic
journey.
things.
The
Yeah.
basic things
Exactly.
that we didn't know. I didn't know these things till sometimes maybe I think it was 4 years out
Yeah. How would we know? How would we know? And
on Google.
Google, Dr. Google.
LBBC.
Yeah.
Dr. G.
Now,
You guys
let
also.
me ask you guys this. I hear toolkit. Are there going to be some resources, giveaways, handouts, other things, printables
Yes.
for participants?
Yeah, so actually one of the great things about the series is that all registrants will get a kind of like a breast cancer 101, which is incredible with the 3 Black docs. And so that information, they have that, and then everything that they receive, there will be materials with all the speakers and everything that they're learning so that they can digest it all and use it, to kind of refer back to as a reference guide as far as asking questions. And there will also be a chat feature where they can, ask questions right then and there to the speakers.
Yeah. Also, if they can't make it during the time, it'll be recorded.
Exactly.
Later, or
On the website.
or show it to their family members. If you think
Mhm.
about it, we're all overwhelmed, and if your family can't watch it, your loved one can go back later and watch it and see
And
what.
also, if you know someone that is diagnosed with breast cancer that's kind of lost right now and unclear and unsure and seem to be struggling, just even if they can't register live, just share the lbbc.org website for them to refer back to later. But all of this material will be there for them in order to understand and be able to navigate for all these unique challenges for Black
Now,
people.
is this
Also,
for early stage
caregivers don't.
Is this for early
Right.
stage or for metastatic?
It's both.
For
So
both, yes.
yeah, really, we'd love to have a mix. We will
Important.
have different sessions for the metastatic group as well. And I just want to say, Ricky, when you said about, the great thing about, one of the great things about Zoom is you can invite anyone to watch with you.
Right.
So it's a real opportunity, grab your partner, your friend, whatever, or ask them to log in, because sometimes you need to have more than one person listening. And just to go back to that subtype, you know, it wasn't so long ago that we didn't know that breast cancer wasn't one disease. And
Right.
I know, Dr. Gary, you could talk more about this, but I
Mhm.
think when most people are diagnosed, they are really surprised to know that, you know, you don't get the same treatment. And that's like the first place you have to start, right? You got to
Oh, yeah.
know your subtype
It's
and
true.
your stage,
Mhm.
and that will help you, you know, make the next decision.
I think Black patients often want to see people that look like them, you know, like having patients that look like you, that have your similar cultural experience. It just is that instant community. Not having any community at all is one thing, but having somebody who looks like you, that understands where you're coming from, and that can help you navigate that journey is so powerful. So people are going to be getting a navigation of sorts through this community that's being built through this conference, which I think is really amazing. I mean, I didn't meet anybody that had breast cancer at my age until way through my journey, like years out. So what we're building here, Jamil's brainchild, is really powerful.
Yeah, and I think also it's different from going to the doctor, because how many times do you get a call and said, you know, my doctor said XYZ, what do you think? Because they want to hear what the doctor says and obviously, you know, understand that, but they want to also kind of validate it with a breastie and validate it with our community and say, did this happen to you? Did you feel this way? Did you have this side effect? How did you deal with it? So I think the conference is going to bring together
Yes.
all of the medical knowledge that people like Dr. Mo can bring, and she's going to be a speaker, so it's going to be awesome. But also the community around us, the breasty sisterhood, to really, you know, talk about and share. And you know, the one thing that COVID did do for us good is that now we can reach so many other people. So to your
Yeah.
Jean, you know, you can have your sister in a different city watch, or your mother across town, and really, you know, kind of do it together and, you know, talk to each other while it's happening. So
I
I
actually
think
think
I
Black
think
breast cancer is its
caregivers
own
also need
subtype.
support. Yeah, caregivers also need support and want to be able to help the patient, and they don't often understand breast cancer. There's so much data thrown at us at one time. So if you're a caregiver and want to join to learn more about what your loved one's going through, this is for you as well.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Right,
I got
Jamil?
a couple questions.
Oh yeah.
So my first question is, will there be a way to see the number of people that someone has referred or I guess invited to the Zoom? Might there be something, a raffle or anything interesting that, you know, you invite the most number of people who referred you to this?
That's a good idea.
You know, because we want to encourage our caregivers, our sisters, our friends,
Yeah.
you know, to watch.
Well, we have some awesome giveaways. So register.
Yeah,
We love
referred you.
love to give things away. Yes.
Yes.
So we'll definitely incent everybody in some way or another.
Mhm.
It's a thought, because you don't think about it until afterwards, you know, and then you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I watched this great program, and you know, then somebody's got to go back and find it and so forth. But you can do it in real time, start watch parties, all those sorts of things. But you know, to your point, I think I spent a lot of time in the clinic going over with patients the different subtypes, understanding, you know, what is ER, PR, and HER2? What are the hormone receptors? What are the ways that we treat breast cancer? How do you understand your pathology results?
Right.
And I feel like, you know, patients may not want to say, no, I don't understand that. And so they'll do this.
But also,
Right.
Black breast cancer is its own unique subtype. Think about the side effects of the treatments that we receive, or even how the different treatments respond differently in our bodies, or even hair issues, skin issues. They affect us completely differently. And then just the framework of our families, PTO time, you know, transportation, where are we going to, clinical trial enrollment, all these issues impact and make our journey and path of breast cancer that much more different and that much more challenging. And it's just really important to have a targeted, precise resources for us in order for us to go into this journey armed, empowered, knowing what we need to know to ensure that we get the best care possible. You know, we're getting away from this whole trickle down, you know, type of cancer care where, oh, if it works for, you know, the majority of the people that are impacted by breast cancer, then it should work for them too. But we totally have to get away from that and prioritize health equity in order to save lives.
Absolutely right. I think we even find that there are differences in preferences for things like reconstruction. You know, Black
Mhm.
women are more likely to have autologous reconstruction, their own tissue, flaps, things like that, versus implants, and a lot of misconceptions and myths that need to be dispelled too.
Mhm.
So I think those are all really great things to talk about in the safety of community, as Mama said. You know,
Yeah.
this is our tribe. These are people who look like us and think like us and have been right where we are, and we are not afraid to lean over and say, I didn't get that, I don't understand that,
Right.
what does that mean, you know, and what do I do with this information?
And also
Right.
those warning
Yeah.
signs. When
Mhm.
is your doctor not validating you? When are they trying to characterize you due to unconscious bias that you are aggressive or that you need to be, not listened to?
You're too
And
young, or
how,
you're too young. You're too,
right.
Will
Or
will there be something that addresses that for patients, how to
yes,
recognize when
yes.
you're
How to
when
advocate for yourself, how to see those signs,
Mhm.
what to do in that type of situation, how to set up a second opinion and what questions to ask. All of that is going to be covered. And so we're really trying to empower folks and have them, and it's a multi-layered issue, not to say the burden should only be on the patient, but the same way that as Black people, we have disparities and inequities in our engagement with the police and also in education and just navigating in America.
Right.
This is the same information.
Same
You
information.
are now armed with, this is what I need to know in order to make sure that I get equitable care. And
Yes.
I'm not
And we know this is
susceptible
tough,
to
right? Because
disparities.
when
Right.
you're diagnosed with breast cancer, you are really vulnerable, and
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's hard. You want this doctor to save your life. I mean, that's really how you feel.
And what if
So
they don't even value your life?
right. So
Mm.
being able to figure that out, how do you sit with it and then figure out the words and then the action? So it's
Because we're talking about people.
Well, and there's provider bias as well. So
Mhm.
if you're telling them about your body and what your needs are and they're ignoring you, you can hire and fire accordingly.
Yes.
So like don't go in there where you're like, you're afraid, go in there and knowing the facts, asking the right questions and saying, if the person's not listening to you, thanks for your time, I will ask somebody else. And so don't be
And it
afraid
should
to
be
get
all
that.
hands on deck for you, just
Right.
as
Yes.
it would
It's
for
your
any
team.
other,
Yeah.
Those are my
patients
favorite
that are
patients,
treated
the
there.
ones who come with their questions, the ones who come sort of, and it's okay if you're deer in headlights too, but when you are able to get to the place of understanding and ready to start putting those questions together for yourself, when you're able to critically ask questions of me, and I always start off with, what do you understand about what's going on?
Right.
Mhm.
We're going to build on your knowledge, and then the last thing I end up saying to patients are, I have a responsibility to treat my patients like family. And
Right.
so that means you're
Yes.
now part of my
Right.
family.
Or part of
And
part
so
of the family.
exactly what I would do for my mother, for my sister, for, my partner, for my aunt, I now have to do for you. And I think that's the highest thing that any doctor can say. And if you go to see these other doctors and you feel lost and confused, just ask them that one question. What would you do if I were your relative?
Your dollar. Your
Mhm.
dollar.
And
Yeah.
see what they say.
Yeah.
That's why you're on the committee.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Dr.
Jean,
Mo.
let me ask you this, Jean. How does this work live on? What do you envision in terms of beyond the conference for LBBC's role to continue this either dialogue or information, or how does it then become part of the organization and grow?
Yeah, that's a great point, because we don't ever want to do something that's just a one-off. We know that doesn't help. So not only will we make sure recordings are available, we'll be creating documents, PDFs, all sorts of ways for people to get in touch. I'm sure there'll be some kind of peer-to-peer resource. And we will do this again next year. I mean, I don't know if we can be in person next year. I don't have that crystal ball, but this will be ongoing. And, we already have deep resources at lbbc.org. So this will be added. But I just want to say, Dr. Gary, because you said something so great. I think everybody, that line you just said, what do you understand? I think if every doctor isn't asking you that, that is a great way to start, because then you have to be able to really say what you know and what you don't know. So what an amazing, I don't think I've ever been asked that question.
And you should. And the last question you should be asked is, well, what will you tell your family when you get home, or whoever you trust?
Right.
Because if I can hear what you will tell someone else, then I know that you understand. And
Mhm.
we don't have to understand everything, but if you
Right.
understand your stage, if you understand your team and you understand what your treatments are going to be, and you have partnered with me to formulate this plan, that's a great place to start. you know? And so what will you tell someone else? As is the sort of final question to see if you really kind of are following, or if you still have some gaps in your knowledge that we can then fill in with groups like LBBC, that we can fill in with my navigators, with clinical trials, with, you know, any other resources, or we sit down and we start all over again, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes it happens and nobody leaves until everybody understands what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And
a
you guys,
time. Yep.
I'm really excited about the last session,
Yes.
the self-care session. And you know, clearly all the information is important, but the self-care piece, and you know, maybe this is your bailiwick, but you know, the fact that always boggles people's mind is that 77.3% of Black moms are single. Add breast cancer to that, and we don't really have a concept for self-care because
Yeah.
we're too busy. And so when you get into this breast cancer entanglement, and you have to feed your kids and make sure everybody's okay and get the laundry done and do the work and go to work and really live your life and continue living life with your kids, you know, it's so hard to say, hold on, I gotta stop and take care of myself. And you know, I did crazy things when I got breast cancer. I just quit my life and started a new one. But most people can't, you know, don't do that. They have to make it work. So the self-care sessions are going to be so helpful to help us understand how do we make it work with our crazy lives, right?
Yeah.
It's not
Maybe
like
talk to us about self-care a little
we
bit.
got to go to a yoga class, you know.
That's a big part of my cancer care, living with metastatic breast cancer. And I just have to say that it's the second to last session as part of this series, but it is a really, really, really big part of the workshop, because, you know, it's not just the medical part when it comes to cancer care.
Yeah.
You know, you have to make sure that you have the full Monty, the full model, to make sure, and, you know, wellness and self-care and prioritizing yourself and being able to nurture yourself is a really, really big part of being able to reinforce yourself to sustain and live with this for the long haul well, you know, where you're not just muddling through, where you're not just dealing, but you're actually being able to live with this and still have a high quality of life.
Mm-hmm. Talk about stress and healing, Mama. You want to say a few words? I know that you could go on forever about it, but tell us a little bit in your experience about the effects of stress on healing.
Oh, we can't hear you, ma'am. You're on mute.
No, we've lost your sound. We will save that question for you. We will not answer it for you.
Right.
Let me ask you this question and see if we have figured out, what does success look like for this conference? How will the success of this conference be measured? What do you think? You know?
Well, did you want to touch on that, Jean, or do you
I mean,
want me
I
to
think
go?
that, yeah, I'll say a few things, but I want to hear what you think as well. I mean, I think part of it is we want to make sure we reach the population that really needs this. So, you know, really finding the people who don't have this knowledge, aren't like all of you who kind of, you know, have the tools. And then we will definitely do some evaluation about, you know, not only what did people learn, but do they know how to take the next step? And we'll stay in touch with this group. I'm already imagining creating some closed Facebook pages, finding ways for people to have, you know, ongoing communication.
That's great.
Anything else, Jamil?
Yeah, I mean, part of the metrics that I use, because now formalizing this whole curriculum into my own nonprofit, that's basically what I'm doing. Some of the metrics that I'm using is, do they feel confident to ask their doctors questions? Do they feel comfortable asking for a second opinion? Are they, you know, how is their outlook? Are they feeling isolated? Are they, you know, are they feeling positive? Are they feeling more optimistic about, you know, living with cancer now? Also, are they having any side effects? And then we get into like hospitalizations, complications, you know, and has this been really effective with them having this toolkit where they feel more confident, more positive, less isolated, and they're on that, you know, staying on that track to make sure that they have that strong continuum of care.
That's great. Mama, do we have sound for you yet? No.
No?
No.
What's going on?
What?
You want to
I
text
know.
me? I thought I just heard you.
I heard
Can you hear me
something.
now?
Yes.
Yes.
I can hear you now.
Yay. trying.
You gotta yell a little
I'll
bit.
try and get it in real fast. I have to go soon, but I think the thing that was most shocking for me being diagnosed, with cancer and then breast cancer, is that no one tells you how you're going to deal with the aftermath of it, and the emotions that even during the whole journey. Everyone's saying you're a warrior, you're a fighter, you can do this. It's all this pink stuff, and there's not a lot of how to handle the emotions of breast cancer. And I found myself very overwhelmed. I am a single parent, have been the entire time during and after cancer, taking care of a child, working. I was so stressed out. And then there was that last day of, they said treatment's over, you leave radiation and tell you to go live your life. And you're like, what is that? And for me, that's when the shock hit, and I had no idea how to comprehend. I was depressed. I was extremely anxious, had adrenal fatigue. I couldn't sleep. And so I had to learn for myself how to self-care. What does it mean to really, really rest? Not when you're tired, but to rest. Meditation, taking baths, being self-aware, not going till I'm exhausted. And so I put together an amazing self-care routine over the past 14 years that I just totally love and love to share and give away, because no one tells you how to self-care, but being aware of what your needs are is really important, and knowing when to say when, and asking for support. At some point I had to ask my aunt, my mom, to come get my daughter. She was 3 years old, and I finished treatment, but I was exhausted. And I needed help, and they would come by and get her on the weekends, and I could sleep all day. And so I think, and it's not asking for help is not a bad thing. It's a sign of strength to say I need help. And so I think that's really important to have this routine. And I'll be sharing my self-care routine with all the guests at the conference as well. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, self-care is not selfish.
Yeah, how about that? And it isn't always, chocolate cake. And sometimes it's maybe having the tough conversations. It's the hard part of
say no.
asking for
It's
help.
saying I can't.
Saying no, right?
Yes.
You can't do
It's
everything.
one word sentence. No.
It is a complete
And you
sentence.
might
You are
get pushback from
absolutely right.
people, because it was definitely, there have been some conversations that are tough conversations to say, I'm going to make sure that I'm not around any more negativity. I'm going to make sure that I keep my circle positive. I'm going to prioritize myself and have appropriate boundaries. And guess what? If your, priority for me is not in alignment with me, then guess what? I'm saying no. And some people, they might push back and feel uncomfortable, but you don't owe anybody anything.
Yeah,
Well,
You have
I
birth.
did it, right? I said I had to get all of the cancers out of my life,
exactly.
and in my breast. And so I made some crazy decisions. I now have a husband, and I quit my business partners, and I'd been married for 30 years, and I moved to the beach. So I mean, I think we all have to figure out, but we all have to learn. I had to learn that my peace is non-negotiable. You guys know that I say that all the time. My peace is non-negotiable, and I will hang up the phone, leave the room, see you, bye, gotta go, if I feel like I'm not getting peace or getting things. And so you have to, and some people don't want to hear that from you, especially when you've been the one that always did everything for everyone.
Support. Yeah.
You know what? We as Black women, we create our own dependencies. We make people dependent, and we feed their dependencies. And so we have to know it's okay to stop and not do that. So,
also getting mental help. I began therapy after treatment. And I didn't tell my friends for a long time, because mental health, you're a warrior. Why are you seeing a therapist? But I've been seeing one for over 10 years now. I see her once a week. She's one of my best friends. I mean, I need her. I'm not going to fire her, because she gets me through stuff. I mean, being a survivor and living with people becoming metastatic and friends of yours who you love and you worry about, and some people don't, they don't make it. And so, and the work we do is it's intense. You love people so deeply, and it's always this up and down journey. So having the balls to say I need to have a therapist, I think it's a fearless thing to do.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Totally.
So yeah, I think you're totally right. And I think spirituality plays a role for a lot of us, depending, whatever your faith is. I think, Black women have more than I'll just say, I think Black women have a real sense of connection to their faith, to whatever they believe, their higher power, and tapping into that as a strength. And, I think probably most women and most cancer patients do at some point, grapple with those issues. But I think talking to Black women, especially, about how their faith and their spirituality doesn't cancel out the need for things like therapy. Those things can all work together. How Western medicine can work together with Eastern principles, with holistic medicine, all of those things. It's not either or, it's and,
Everything.
in addition to, right. And using every tool that's available to us, as opposed to picking and choosing. We're only going to choose from one side of the tracks. Like, there are therapies that can help you, tolerate your chemotherapy better, help you detox, help you get better rest at night, help you, with the quality of your life, have better intimacy, lots of different things.
Yes.
And I think opening our eyes to the possibilities there is going to be a really great thing to see as a result of this conference as well. So I'm super excited about it, for sure.
Well, I'm excited. I just, but
You're
I think
beaming.
it also shows that, when being involved with advocacy and everything that I'm doing, I was so surprised when, like, even Jean said, sure, let's do this. And it's like, me? Yeah. It's just, but it just goes to show you are capable. Do not think that you are not capable of doing whatever you set your mind to. And
Say
I think,
that again. Say that again.
do not think that you are incapable of doing whatever you set your mind to. Because if you can think it, you can get it done. And
You can do
now
it.
this is happening, and so many people are going to benefit from this. And it's just going
Right,
to
and
continue to grow.
if
And
you
they're
don't
going to be on that
ask,
right track.
and if you don't step forward, nothing happens, right?
Mhm.
So, the fact that Jamil reached out and said, let's do this, you've got to also say what you need. I
Mhm.
remember when my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, she had 3 cancers in her lifetime, but she was always a really direct woman, but she became extraordinarily direct. So if someone would come up to her and say, her name was Romaine, and they would say, hey, Romaine, how are you doing? And she said, well, actually, I'm not doing so great. I have cancer. And people would just like walk away from her, and she didn't care.
Mhm.
That's right.
And, to be that bold, what happened over time, because it was in the early 80s when people didn't talk about breast cancer, her phone started ringing off the hook
Mhm.
with people who were diagnosed. And so you just never know how your
Yeah.
actions are going to, impact others. So you got to open your mouth.
That's so
one thing
true.
about breast cancer is that it makes you a badass. I mean, really, we don't have any filter. Like, why would we now? I mean, I think, when you're told you're going to
Very
die
freeing.
and your life is at risk, we just, you don't take any stuff off of anybody.
Yeah. Preserve your joy.
That's my hope. I
Keep in
can't tell you
mind-
the number of patients I see, though, Ricky, who have the opposite response to their breast cancer.
Well, they
And
need
the
to
goal
come.
is to
They need to
tip
listen.
that scale. It's to go from
Register.
feeling disempowered and, this thing just landed on, this bomb just landed in my life, to, okay, well, this bomb landed in my life like 2020, like COVID, like everything else this year. And, what am I going to do that's transformative about it? How do I just sit in the space I'm in and get to the next place that looks and feels better for me? What does healing even look like for me? What does, what do my days look like where I can feel hopeful and feel fulfilled and feel on purpose, and I want to see that for so many people. And I think that's,
And I've
that's
seen
my
it.
goal for this.
Yeah.
That's where I came up with the name
Yes.
Chrysalis, because of that transformation, because of having a woman referred to me in crisis, in isolation, about to check out, not really getting the care that she needs and pretty much giving up. And then just going through, just checking off the boxes and going through what they need to do. And now, I mean, yes, it sucks. We have breast cancer, but at least there's, they're positive this day and they're looking forward to the next day. And if a challenge comes, there's always a solution. And I
Right.
think that transformation is everything to me.
Yeah.
And we're going to
It's
see
powerful.
And that's
so many transformations.
And then I think that persistence to just keep fighting like a girl is so important. But that's why also it's so important to do this, to get the science working in our favor.
Yeah.
Because Black breast cancer is a different disease. And there's so many unknowns that we don't know yet. We haven't uncovered And so that's why even the clinical trial discussion is going to be so important,
Yes.
because we have to do the research on our bodies because we are different. And so
Mhm.
I think that's going to be a really important part of the conference, to just trying to help people understand what exactly is a clinical trial, how does it work. I'm not going to get the placebo drug because there isn't one, and sort of getting over the trust barriers that are deeply rooted in our spirit.
Mhm.
That's up to us though, Ricky. And I love the 3 black docs, and this is so Jamila, maybe you give them a shout out as well. They are some colleagues and associates of mine, but it is up to the medical community to repair that relationship.
Yeah.
And so I can't stress enough to people who are watching, who practice medicine, who are medical students, who are residents. We have a lot of work to do to begin to lay the groundwork of trust and of education of this community to do the work so that we can make some differences. Maima, I see you have to log off, but tell people how they can reach you real quickly.
Well, Jamil, it's Jamil's show. They can just contact. What's the URL for the conference? I'm supporting her, so it's all about her today. But I'm just really proud of Jamil, because getting diagnosis of any kind at any stage is not easy. And getting a metastatic breast cancer, just knowing that you're metastatic, it could be immobilizing. And I really am proud of you. You're only about 3 or 4 years into this, and you're doing all this
3 or
work.
4.
Work.
Or how many? Okay, I'm
2.5.
well, see what I'm saying? She said she's a badass,
Mhm.
and you remind me a lot of myself. I began Tiger Lily when I was in treatment. People thought I was crazy beginning this thing, and what is Tiger Lily? And, now we're 14 years out, we reach women all over the world. So, to Ricky's point and to all of your points, you have to have hope, you have to have faith, and you have to be the example you seek in the world. You can't ask who's going to do it if you don't do it, and when they're going to do it if you're not going to do it yourself right now. And so I think this will really empower a lot of women of color,
Yeah.
women to take the charge of being their best advocates, being empowered and not feeling alone, and learning to become even more powerful during this journey. Like, breast cancer freaking changed my life. The girl that today was not this person.
Mm.
I was I was not this badassy, I didn't just say
None of us were. We became
so
badasses.
I want to see women, because a lot of Black women sometimes tend to keep things secret, especially in certain cultures of Black communities. And it's time to just embrace our power, take a hold of our breast cancer journey, and be transformed by it. So I'm really proud of Jamil and Ricky. I'm so happy we're partnering, and Jean and Dr. Mo, you're a badass as always. And I'll see you guys soon.
See you soon. Thank you for joining us.
I'm sorry we're
Bye,
so late.
much.
I love you. Love you,
Love you guys.
Thank you. Love you, Maima.
Love you too.
TigerLilyFoundation.org.
Tell us some more about support and outreach and ways that people can reach you through LBBC and get involved, about just some of the services that you guys provide.
Sure. So, Living Beyond Breast Cancer, we have a whole bunch of services. We have a helpline, so it's always available. You can call and we'll do a peer-to-peer match. So if you're newly diagnosed, you're a caregiver. So if you go onto our website, so much information. I think we have 12,000 pages of content, which is a little overwhelming, but it is searchable. You can click on the newly diagnosed tab. We have new content for newly diagnosed metastatic as well as newly diagnosed early stage. After the Knowledge of is Power conference, we'll go right into our fall conference, which will be on October 24th. That will also be virtual. Love to have, everybody join us for that. And we do, we're updating our content regularly. We do ongoing programs. We train young women diagnosed with breast cancer. Jamil was trained. We train metastatic people, both men and women, for a program called Hear My Voice, which is all about helping you become advocates, take control of your cancer, and really amplify the message. So as I said in the beginning, I feel like because Living Beyond Breast Cancer has been around for a while, we have a really strong platform. We reach over 600,000 people a year. So we want to be that platform to raise all these issues.
One of the things also, can I add, Jean, is,
Yeah.
I really came to know you guys was through Triple Negative.
Yes.
So, I chair the board. I'm on the board of Triple Negative Foundation, used to chair the board, and we do a special track within your fall conference specifically for triple negative patients. And me coming to your conference was the first time I was ever in a room with other women with triple negative. And it blew me away. I was probably a year out from my treatment, and I had met one person with triple negative in my whole, experience. And so to be in that setting in such a powerful environment and just to meet other breasties like me was just eye-opening and amazing. And so, I think that's something that you guys bring to the table that's so important and so helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
know,
absolutely. Breast
have a
cancer is
tip.
not
Yeah.
one disease, and we want to connect you with that. But the saddest thing is that Ricky would always wear her cowboy boots, and you guys are not going to be able to see her. I mean,
She can wear
and
them.
her
She'll find
outfit.
a way.
Yep, she
I
can.
I
have
think, Ricky, you're going to have to like do the whole outfit and
Yeah.
show the boots, right?
I'll wear my boots. I know, I only wear pink shoes in October, and I'm like, where am I gonna go? I usually by now too, I would have bought like 3 new pairs to have in October. I'd have way more pairs than 31, which is really bad.
You wear yours, I'll wear mine. I got some.
Okay,
pink
but we're gonna wear them.
sparkly
In my house, I will wear my cowboy boots. On my walk on my dog, I'll wear my pink cowboy boots.
deal.
But I
deal.
think that's what we all miss, right? That
In surgery.
Yeah.
I think we all miss that getting together, because I think the virtual is great, but I think what's been powerful about Living Beyond Breast Cancer is getting to know people you never would have sat next to, people just finding each other, so much hugging, so many people in the bathroom lifting up their shirts and showing their reconstruction, whether they were happy with it or not. And so, we want to eventually get back together, but I think in this weird time, we have to do what we can. But just on that, Dr. Gary, can I ask you a question? Because I wanted to go back to that clinical trial. Do you feel like COVID's going to be helpful in kind of educating everybody about clinical trials, or how do you think that's going to unfold?
I think there is a perfect storm right now of opportunity. I'm a glass half full kind of girl, and part of it is being a cancer surgeon. I'm just an optimist. I always have been. And I think that what we're seeing with respect to social justice movements right now and the very obvious disparities that COVID is exposing in mortality and survival and healthcare access and utilization and bias among providers, I think is providing a very fertile ground for us to begin to explore these issues as it relates to clinical trials. I think that sadly, I am seeing a lot more advanced disease, which means that there will be patients who may benefit even more from clinical trial involvement. It's been a little compounded because we haven't been able to meet in person as much, so even our medical oncology practices have been virtual during, I think, the height of the pandemic, over the last probably 2 months or so. But it's starting to sort of drift downward in terms of the numbers and the unknowns, I think, about COVID-19. Hospitals and health systems are much better equipped now than they were before. There are fewer shortages of things like masks, et cetera. So I think that we're going to see our clinical trial enrollment hopefully increase, but the conversations around education are going to increase also because people are looking to connect. They are all virtual. We can bring it right to your home. We don't have to take time away from your appointments and your families to do that. You get it right in your living room. And so I think it's a great way to bring that information, and it's a great time to bring that information. And so my hope is that as a result of this year, we are going to see some real changes being made in not only the number of clinical trials that we offer and the enrollment increase, especially among Black women, but that we might even approach clinical trials a different way, because what we have been doing clearly is not working. And so now's the time to reimagine what trials should look like. And I think that, the medical community needs to sit down and have some very tough conversations about that, because the standard way of, one office visit, one patient, one trial, one lab at a time, in hallowed halls of academia that don't reflect where 70% of people get their cancer care is just not going to be the sustainable model that moves the needle forward. So now's the time. It is a perfect storm of chaos to see progress happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we know how to talk to people, though. I don't think we have the communication right in terms of helping them feel empowered. I think that the situation, you're so vulnerable and you're not feeling well, you're sick, and then you're just emotionally vulnerable. So we have to figure out how to talk about clinical trials in a different way to make people feel empowered, that this is making me stronger. This is making me powerful to do this trial. So that's kind of some of the work we're working on at Touch. How do we think about how we talk about the science so We do
It
make,
starts with education.
yeah,
You
Yeah.
know, Ricky, not to cut you off, but I think the more we educate, and Jamil's got it, you know, like spot on, the more people understand what they have and what they need and
Right.
what's going on, the
Right.
more you can even hear that conversation about a trial. Because when you're just trying to wrap your mind around your diagnosis and you don't understand what a hormone receptor is, and you don't know what a difference between a lumpectomy and a mastectomy or radiation, you don't get it. It's hard to see yourself, put yourself in another uncertain, you know, situation.
yeah,
And so I think the more we educate people and get that information out there, the better those conversations will be. But you're right, we could certainly, and we have to do a better job of talking to patients about trials. You're right.
yeah, yeah. So we're excited about this. I think with so much information, and I think that the way you know, when everybody goes online and checks out the schedule, you could see how there's something for everybody. And you know, even if you don't even have never had breast cancer, you should learn about it. You know, everybody has a breast cancer story in their family. Unfortunately, it's just too prevalent. So, you know, bring people who don't, you know, bring a bestie. Every bestie bring a bestie. Just
Oh, I
really,
love that.
you know,
That's
you know, for
incredible.
somebody who doesn't know, because it'll help them understand what you're dealing with, but also in case it happens to someone in their family. You
Yeah.
know, it's a
Jamil.
horrible disease, and there's too much of it, you know, that we're all fighting against that. But I think we have like something for everybody, and it's going to be in good bite-sized morsels, you know, just like
Yes.
Thursday. I love that. And
Mhm,
then we
Yeah.
can watch it after. You can watch it again if you missed it and you want to get
Mm-hmm.
back. So it's all
Mhm.
good. It's all good stuff. So thank
Jamil,
you.
you get the last word here. I want you to
That's
tell us the date, tell us the
Yeah.
details, so that if anybody's watching and you want to jot it down really quickly, and we'll put it in the comment section as well on Facebook. But
Yeah, we did.
um,
We did.
yep,
Yeah.
make sure give us the call to action. Give us the closing. You know, you go to church and the doors of the church are open. Give us the altar call here. Get us to the conference.
Yeah.
Well, I think this workshop series, Knowledge is Power, Understanding Black Breast Cancer, is part of our initiation to ensure that we're done dying. We're tired of getting, you
Yes.
know, secondhand and, you know, not really prioritizing us as people or valuing our lives. And I think it is just in line with, you know, who knew that this would be the timing and climate that we're in right now, but it is so appropriate because, you know, your life is important. It is valuable. You know, you're a person of color, your life is important. It should be prioritized. It should not be negated or neglected because of the color of your skin. So this is just a way to make sure that you have the tools that you need to be empowered to ensure that you stay on that track of quality continuum of care. And we're just not dealing with inequities anymore. We're at a point where if we're serious about saving lives, we have to ensure that health equity is part of standard of care. So please register for Knowledge is Power, Understanding Black Breast Cancer at lbbc.org, October 1st through October 24th.
Register now. Go now.
Yes.
Not pass.
Go now. Do not pass
Yeah,
go.
not like $100.
Well, thank you guys. We
Thank
hope
you,
that this has
Jean.
been relatable and reliable and real. That's what we set out to do every Wednesday night. Make it relatable,
you
reliable,
for
real
having us.
information for our breasties. So Jamil, we love you. We thank you for
Love
putting
you.
this together.
And thank you for helping me.
Oh, it's my
We love you.
privilege.
We
It's
love
my
you, Jean.
responsibility. Jean, I'll see you soon. I love you. I love the work that you
So
do,
much.
not just, you know, with us, but for my patients, because I send my patients to LBBC for resources, for
Yeah.
funding, for everything, you know, for questions, for support.
Yeah.
And it's been so integral in my practice, and I'm so thankful for it. So
Aw.
Well, thank you. So
Absolutely.
grateful to all of you.
Great.
Yeah. Ricky,
Breasty love. Breasty love. You know,
Breasty love.
with us.
Thank
touchbbca.org,
you.
@touchbbca, and we love you guys. We'll see you
see you
next.
next Wednesday night, 6
Yep.
p.m. The doctor's
And,
in.
and
All
check
right,
out our
thank you.
Facebook page for a tease of what's coming on October 7th.
Oh, that's right. We
Yeah,
will be
we have a
interviewing
little
the
surprise.
Matthew Knowles. We can say it now.
Yeah.
We're looking forward
So
to it.
excited.
Take care,
We want
everybody.
Beyonce to tweet us. So Beyonce, can you hear me?
Take care, guys.
Care, bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.